Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is a follow-up to a bill this chamber passed last year. It was passed in the Senate, became law. It was an update to the Kentucky child support guidelines that had not been accomplished in over 20 years. That part of the bill required us to do so in order to maintain federal funding related to that. This bill is the second part of that, which deals with overnight parenting time. So what happened is in 2017, the court issued a ruling that there's a presumption of shared parenting. But when you're doing child support computations, if it's a true 50-50 shared parenting, it's relatively easy to figure it out on a child support computation. However, if due to work schedules or other circumstances that are part of daily life, there's not an equitable parenting time, there has to be an adjustment to that child support number that's being paid. And for that reason, we engaged with the Division of Child Support, the Kentucky Child Support Commission and their executive director, and the Child Support Enforcement Division and their director. They actually hired an expert that we've worked with throughout the year. In fact, we've looked at the Arizona model, the Indiana model, the Colorado method, the Oregon method, etc. And what has been placed before this body is the Kentucky model. Now, I know there's some concerns of the courts, and we've been addressing those concerns largely because it's a fairly complicated matter. And last year, when we passed the child support bill, we put a delay on the implementation of the overtime parenting until this session. Well, after trying to draft this, and many man hours and lady hours spent on this, we concluded that it's much easier to talk about and to talk about how it should be done fairly than it is to codify it in written language. I do want to give a shout out as I'm here today with the drafter, and she has joined me because it is a very complicated bill that she has spent hours and hours and hours upon, and that's Lexington Sowers that's here to my right. She has done an immense job of working with us, the experts, etc. Now, there is a House Committee sub, and I would ask the clerk to report House Committee Sub 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 501.
Gentleman from Boone.
House Committee Substitute 1 simply says that if the parties are truly equal shared parenting, then the person making the more money will be considered the obligor. Again, that's a technical matter for computing child support. So with that explanation, Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Committee Sub 1.
Motions for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also ask the clerk to report House Floor Amendment 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 1 to House Bill 501.
Gentleman from Boone.
House Floor Amendment 1, after discussions with the judges, with the people that were part of the group that was doing this, with the experts, we decided that what we are going to do in this process is have the Child Support Commission prepare a manual that will be used by judges, courts, practitioners, and participants that will show detailed explanation of how to do these formulas and will give them a template for doing so. Because it is a complicated process and this manual has to be developed, it was the consensus of the group that we should delay implementation of this until March 31 of 2023. And that is the basis of the floor amendment, so we could continue to get input from judges. With that, Mr. Speaker, I would move that we adopt House Floor Amendment 1.
Motion is for the adoption of House Floor Amendment 1. Is there any discussion? Vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The simplicity was the word of the hour. There's just no simple way to do this, but we've come up with what we believe is a good model. We've been told by the people that do the electronic system, which is Craig Ross, that it will work. And so with that, we'd like the ability to make that work through this process. So with that, unless there's further questions, I would move for passage of House Bill 501 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1 and House Floor Amendment 1.